Hi there, and good evening. Today, I'd like to share my experience with miniature painting. So, last year, around March, I passed my board exams, and as a reward, I bought some miniatures. One scale model and one miniature set, and that miniature set was the Medieval Challenge. You see, a couple of years back then, which was pandemic years, a couple of years from last year, basically, I got introduced to Warhammer 40k, and the miniature painting side of it was very intriguing. And during around 2021, I bought some scale models, Machine and Krieger to be specific, and yeah, they were great, but they weren't really, like what the Warhammer 40k models were, which were these tiny little things. Instead, I started off painting big scale models. And it wasn't until in 2023 that, as I've shown, I bought some small miniatures. It wasn't yet Warhammer 40k because I didn't really, even at that time, Warhammer 40k wasn't very popular in the Philippines. And so I bought the next best thing, which were these, tiny medieval soldiers from this box. And it was a rather old box from how I inspected it. And so I bought that, and and I never thought I would experience this, but it was left alone for how many months, It was that thing, where I would see on YouTube some of these Warhammer painters, and they would leave their boxes for months or even years unpainted, and I kind of experienced a little bit of that with these guys. But around last year, I began painting them slowly, little by little, on the weekends, because during that time, I also was working. And so I painted them little by little. And the way I first started painting them was I washed them first, cleaned and washed them with soapy water. Because there's this thing called mold release, and from what I learned, you have to scrub that off. But I think it's not really present for plastic miniatures. However, better safe than sorry. And so after I cleaned them off, I inspected them. They're tiny little things, and the casting wasn't as great as I thought. They were very, very clear mold lines, and I didn't really bother taking them off because it didn't really matter to me. I'd be looking at these miniatures from afar, and it's fine. And so I snipped them off one by one, and I didn't really have to assemble anything because each of them were complete models by themselves. And so yeah, it was fine. And for the first time in a while, because it had been a few months since I bought them, I got to see them as a group of tiny people. Unpainted, yeah, they were still this light orange unpainted miniatures, but it was nice to see them out of the spruce. And so in the following weekends, I would paint each and every one of them, like one by one. The first ones I painted were the knights on horses because they were the biggest models. And here's the thing with like miniature painting is that the bigger the model, the easier it is to paint, you know. Because the smaller the model, the more, the more precise you'll need to be and the more precise your brushes have to be. And because I didn't really have brushes made for miniature painting, rather they were for like just, watercolor and acrylic, the bigger models, starting off with the bigger models was, the wiser choice. And when I painted them, it was kind of like painting with the larger scale models but miniaturized. And I didn't have to waste as much paint, but at the same time I had to be more careful. I couldn't just like freely paint them without any care, because if I made a mistake, I have to like get that specific color and then repaint all over again. However, this was a thing that I did a bit by bit, and it's not something I really had to get things done quickly. Rather, it was more of a very zen-like experience, meditative in a way. Just like painting itself. It was a meditative process. If I made any mistakes, I just had to go back. And because I was, mostly calm when painting, mistakes weren't as many as I thought there would be. And so yeah, I would have like mistakes here and there, but quickly, like paint over them. It was no problem. And so for like many months, as I got busy with, with work, and I got busy with the comics, because with my comics, I realized, oh my god, I have to like get really serious, because it's been a while now, and I needed to, and there wasn't a lot of time anymore, because I had to like, and with this year specifically, this August of 2024, I'm going back to school. So yeah, I had to like finish my comic one way or another. And so, my time got cut short, and for miniature painting, because this was like, more of a hobby than anything, it got cut even shorter. However, ultimately, I think around this April of 2024, I finally finished them. And here they are. So this is them in all their glory. Yeah, tiny little things. They're not actually glued onto this like diorama, so I'm gonna have to be careful with them. The only thing that's glued are like the the terrain pieces, like this small hut and the fence. Everyone else, the knights, the people and whatnot, they're just freely there. I'm not sure how they stick, but I think, the acrylic was still drying. And so there's like a little adhesive there, but just a little. If I move them, they will move. And so anyways, that was my experience with, miniature painting, like actually painting miniatures. My scale model paintings are of a different thing. It's like they're right there. Those are my scale models. They're the Machine and Krieger ones. They're basically like they're like Warhammer 40k, but bigger and cheaper. And so yeah, from this experience, I learned to take things slow and do a process bit by bit. It was like doing my comics, basically. That I didn't have to like hurry or worry too much about, oh, I have to do this fast or whatever. But just, trust the process. Everything is like systematized. Do it layer by layer, or like once a week. And eventually, you'll finish them. And I think that's the thing I've, come to learn with life, is that rather than doing something big and grinding it out every day until you get it done and something big happens, what actually happens is that, you work on something bit by bit. Maybe not every week, maybe every day, such as grinding something. But bit by bit, little by little, eventually time passes by and it becomes like part of your life. And once it becomes part of your life, it doesn't become this stressful thing that you have to worry about every day. Rather, it is simply something you have to do, something you just do. And over time, something comes out of it. It becomes a finished product, it becomes a finished project, it becomes something. And then you'll move on to the next. You'll find that when you finish something, you tend to do something else. And I think that's the beauty of art, or just the beauty of just doing anything really. Like whether you're building something, whether you're making an animation, or whether you're painting a painting. Once you finish that thing, you're gonna look back on it and be proud of what you've done, and then you're gonna move on to the next thing. And I kind of think to myself, in the end, when I get older and I'm about to die and I'm like halfway through a project, I'm not gonna regret, if I'm about to die and I'm halfway through a project, I'm not gonna regret not being able to finish it, because anyways, even if I did finish it, I would have just begun doing something else. It's this perpetual thing, whether you're in between finishing something or you've already finished other things. No matter what happens to you, you're just happy because you got to do this. You got to do the things you wanted to. And so yeah, that's that's a little thing I learned from these miniature paintings. Wow. Anyways, I won't take too much of your time. This was a little video that I wanted to make regarding these, tiny little people. Tiny little people. And yeah, that's just what I wanted to do for now. And until then, I'll see you.